This first presentation is titled, What is Life and What is the World? And I will begin with a question that should have preceded this one. And that question is there a world? When we open our eyes, we see the world. What do we mean when we say that we see the world? Light reflected from various sources reaches our eyes, and then we say that we see those things from which the light is reflected. This does not mean that the world does not exist. What it does mean is that whatever it is that exists reflects this light back to us, and what we are able to perceive is based on the reflected light and not on an actual perception of the thing which is reflecting the light itself. It becomes very clear when you look at satellite remote sensing, where satellites send us data in the forms of things that look like photographs. They are usually in black and white, and you can see black and white areas, but you don't know what those areas are all about. If you might see a white line against a background of gray. Now that white line could be, or black line more likely, it could be a river or it could be a road. There are ways of determining whether it's a river or a road, but I'm just taking that as a very general example. Now it's up to you to decide whether this is a road or a river. So you look at the terrain and you look at the nature of the shape that you're looking at, and you think this looks more like a road than like a river. River tends to curve and have tributaries. This road is a bit straight. So something is interpreting this. And in the same way, when light reaches your eyes from the world, you interpret it. Something interprets it. We do not know who this something is, but something interprets. And what is being interpreted is the light that is being reflected from the world. So there is something that is reflecting this light. Now that may not be solid, that may not be liquid, that may not be gas, that may not even be a thing, but whatever it is, it reflects light back. And it's not only with light, it's with all our sense organs. It is able to communicate or send information to our sense organs, which our sense organs then pick up, and then we interpret and we decide, that looks like this. And we make up the world. But the world is there. So there is a world, and this world allows us to pick up information or data about it and come to various conclusions as to its nature and its behavior, its origins, its purpose, and our relationship to it. So, this question, what is the world, does not have a direct answer, but we can see what it involves. We can see what it encompasses. We can see what we have to understand in order to find an answer. We have to understand what this thing is that is giving us data, giving us information. And things get a little more complicated because we are a part of this thing. So it is the thing in us which is both giving us the information and interpreting the information. And one thing I want you to be very clear about is that what I am telling you is not something that is etched in stone. It's not the last word. What I am telling you is merely what I'm articulating is merely a perception what I'm articulating is merely a conceptualization, a set of concepts based on a particular perception or perceptual paradigm, which I hope will change because I intend to, because I hope to increase in awareness and increase in my understanding of the world and improve my relationship with the world. And therefore, I hope that my perceptions will change, and I hope that my conceptualization of what I perceive will therefore also change. So this is not the last word that I am giving you. So it's something to think about and something to work on, and it is not something to memorize, and it is not something to go and tell somebody else, look, so and so said this, and therefore this is what the world is all about. No, that's not what this is all about. Now, we have this world out there. And then we ask this question, what is life? We have to stop and think. What is life? There is no answer. But then it is life that is asking this question. So there must be something called life. And life is trying to understand the world. But life is not something separate from the world, it is the world. So it's the world trying to understand itself. So life is the world trying to understand itself? I do not know. But it looks like that to me at the moment. Tomorrow things may look different. And there are a whole host of questions that arise from this. I do not know whether they can all be addressed or whether it is even worth trying. But it is interesting to look at a situation where there is something that we call the world. Now, wait a minute. Is it a thing? A thing is something that we define against nothingness or some kind of a background. Is the world like that? I am not sure. So maybe the world is not a thing, which makes things even more complicated, because if it is not a thing, how does it reflect light? How does it communicate information to us? And we are a part of this thing which is not a thing. And life is a part of it. And what we do see is that life is always present in relation to matter. And we do not see any life without matter. But we do see matter which appears to be lifeless. So there is matter without life, but no life without matter, as far as we can see so far. As I pointed out, this is not the last word on the matter, but it is important to go forward step by step. So we have a world which is not necessarily a thing, and about which we know some, we don't actually know, we assume some things, we project some things, we put some information together and say, it must be like this. Not that it is like that. it must be like this based on what we know, or what we have put together of the measurements that we are able to make. So there is a world, and there is this life, and this life is associated with matter, and we tend to think of the world as being made of matter, or made of energy, or made of something, and we tend to think of life as being made of not that something. We try to make a distinction between the two. I'm not sure as to whether such a distinction is actually possible. Because as I said, whatever you call the world, whether it is matter or whatever you call it, without the stuff of the world, there appears to be no life. But without life, the stuff of the world seems fine. No problem. Gets on fine without life. But life has a problem. It cannot get on without the stuff of the world. So now this tells us something about the world and about life. Life depends on the world. The world will get on fine even if there's no life. We do not know exactly how life depends on the world. I mean, in a very gross sense we do, because life depends on its environment for its sustenance. That's putting it in a very general way. But at a deeper level, how exactly life relates to the world is something that we are not very clear on. But the important thing now to understand is that there is a world, and without that world there is no life. But without life, the world could get by without any serious disruption. And this may be why life tries to come to terms with the world, tries to understand the world, tries to adapt to the world. Because the world does not necessarily need life. But without the world, there is no life. I would like to leave it at that. But there is a lot more that can be said. I don't want to say it myself because it is not something that endures. It is not something permanent. And it is far more important for you to grapple with this question of what is life, what is the world, what is the relationship between the two, and come to your own answers. And you will realize through this process that your answers are not permanent. They are answers which are suitable to a particular context and a particular time that you happen to be in. But within the next few minutes or hours or days or years, they become irrelevant, they change. And that tells you something about the world, that the world is changing and that you are changing. So your answers have to change, your perceptions have to change, the conceptualizations that you make on the basis of your perceptions have to change. And when that happens, and when you begin to realize the dynamic nature of whatever it is that is going on, then you are actually answering that question. You are answering the question of what is the world and what is life. And that is what I want you to do. And you understand that you do not make one single answer once and for all for your life. It is an answer that you are making all the time. Your answer is changing. Your answer is your story of who you are and what life is to you. So I will leave you with that task. Tell your story. Share your answers or share your answering. Your answering is in a way your relationship with life and the world. And your answering is what you bring, you add, the value that you add to the whole process. So go ahead, start answering and share your answers with the world. Good luck.